We will now move on to the next speaker, who is Jeffal, who is the founder and leader, I imagine, of the think tank, Heimr. He's also a former representative in Riksdagen, the Swedish parliament, when he represented the Sweden Democrats. So, Jeff, please come up here.
And before I begin, I want to address my Norwegians, brothers and sisters in our own language. I hope the other guests don't feel offended by that. Jag vill tacka för att jag får komma hit idag och Heimr, som jag kommer att presentera snart. Vi tror på ett mycket starkare nordiskt samarbete och det är en ära att få vara här och bli inbjuden. Och jag hoppas och tror att vi, de nordiska folken, kan hitta ännu fler vägar för samarbete. För vi lever i en helt ny världsordning nu. Världen ser inte ut som den gjorde igår. Och jag vet att om de nordiska länderna kan samarbeta djupare i flera områden. Nu pratar jag inte om ett nytt EU, absolut inte, utan då är det såklart mellanstatligt med respekt för varandra. Förutom när det ligger idrott såklart, självklart inte det. Så kommer vi kunna gå in i en ny nordisk guldålder. Vi har nu stått på knä tillräckligt länge inför olika stormakter i världen. Det är nu dags för Norden att resa sig upp som en man och säga att nog är nog. Och det handlar inte bara om återvandring, det handlar om så mycket mer. Vi har en nordisk guldålder framför oss och en av sakerna är självklart återvandring eller remigration som då krävs. A short summary in English, very hard to go up after a speaker who actually speaks English. I was talking about a potential Nordic golden age, and I have discussions with other guests from other nations as well, and they will probably be able to find the same type of regional and cultural corporations in Europe to build their own golden ages, and that will make Europe strong. Now we have tried EU, and you know what they said? Oh, we will be strong with the EU. Yeah? Tell that to von der Leyen when she went over to the US and cut us the worst tariff deal in European history. It's a shame for the nation states of Europe, and it's a shame for Europe itself. The EU have to go on the trash bin of history. Once it does, then we will be able to rise again in all of Europe. We started this think tank, and I will say I'm not affiliated with any party anymore. I have left the Swedish Democrats. I will probably vote for them next election. The Swedish Democrat does things that are good, and they are doing things that are not that good. And we are not obliged to spread propaganda for any party. We spread the word of good ideas for the Swedish people. And I know I maybe step on some toes when I say this. I don't believe a national movement should align with right or left. In Sweden anyway, the right-wing parties have destroyed the country as much as the left-wing parties. Why should I be associated? I don't want to be associated with liberal politicians that have destroyed the country, and I don't want to be associated with socialist politicians that have destroyed the country. And Heimr is not tied to any specific ideology, except of course nationalism, which is for me a type of ideology. I can't speak ideologically, but the most important thing is good questions, no matter what they come from, is something we have to lift up and of course promote. That's about Heimr, and Heimr is old Nordic language for home. Not only home, there are other definitions for Heimr too, but that's one of the definitions, and that's why we chose it. Our first report was about remigration, eller återvandring, som det heter, as it is in Swedish. And this is the most urgent question for Europe to solve. And I won't repeat all the things that everybody has already said, so I will skip a lot of things on my computer here. But of course, we are taking up the price for mass migration and the multicultural society. We're also opposing the myths that are spread about large-scale remigration. And this is an important word. We must talk about large-scale remigration. Because in Sweden, the other parties are already approaching the remigration question. And we maybe are a bit ahead of some countries, but our movement has to be in the avant-garde. We have to go before the other ones and push the narrative or the corridor of opinions, as we say in Sweden. A party has to be more tactical. A think tank, we can be more free and be outside the corridor of opinions a bit. But a party like yours and others has to dare to be on the border, has to risk being a bit too harsh, because then you move the corridor of opinion and forces the other political parties to adapt to your position. And I think remigration will happen, but I want it to be in an orderly fashion. I want it to be humane, of course, but it also means that we have to do things that some might regard as too extreme. But it isn't extreme. Like a lot of people have said, the extreme thing is what the politicians have done to their own people. That is what is extreme. What we are suggesting is to make Europe normal again, to make Sweden normal again, to make Norway normal again. And we shouldn't care if they call us Nazis, fascists, or whatever. They have done that for a long time. And the funny thing is, now, in Sweden anyway, which I will come to, they are now approaching those same opinions as they branded as Nazis. So, yeah, don't care what to say, just go on and explain your politics. I will start with the myths about large-scale remigration, because there are many out there. The first one is, oh, you want to send everybody back. I learned that from the Dagsavisen, I think the newspaper here in Norway is. It's so crazy, I don't know where to start. And oh, you will send home everybody with a different skin color. No one has ever said that. But, of course, foreigners coming to a country, living off the welfare state only, not contributing, not learning the language, don't show respect to the original people, should go home. And I don't care if they have citizenship or not. Send them home. And if their home country can't take them back, well, set a deal with another country somewhere in the world. And I promise, if they are afraid that they will be sent to that country, they will voluntarily go back to the real country. And then we have the problem with the EU. Norway isn't a member of the EU, but you're still adhering to a lot of what the EU says. Very strange for me as Swede, but okay. And I understand that there are a growing movement that doesn't like this, and you shouldn't. But can the EU stop remigration? If we take Sweden as an example, no, they can't. The politicians will say, oh, yes, they can. They will tell us that we can't. Okay, I don't give a... Yeah, you know, I don't care. I don't care. Why can't we do that? Oh, well, then they will put us in the EU court and we have to pay a fine. Okay, why? Because we have this European convention that says you have to follow these. Okay, leave that convention. Oh no, you can't, because you have to be in that convention if you're in the EU. Okay, but we leave it anyway. But then you will be fined anyway. Okay, we won't pay the fine. But then they will stop sending money to you. Well, we are net contributor to the EU, so we will just say, okay, you don't send that money to us, we won't send money to you, so we don't care. And then someone will say, well, that's not good, because you have to follow the rules, you know. Yeah, of course, we are following the rules, because the praxis in EU is to not follow the rule. And I will take... in Sweden, anyway, political praxis is about everything. About exactly everything, and I think that should be the same in EU, because in the EU, the large countries don't follow the rule. Germany and France, they broke the Stability Pact and did not adhere to the rules or the fines that they should have gotten. They just ignored it. Nothing happened. The Dublin rules that have put Norway, Sweden, Finland and Denmark and other countries in the northern parts of Europe in a very dangerous situation had not been adhered either. We shouldn't have these problems. But the member states of the European Union broke the rules. So they didn't follow the rules. So okay, there's a praxis. You don't need to follow the rules. And the only thing that can stop remigration is weak and coward leaders. It's like my father used to say, and he still says it a lot of times. There are a lot of bosses, but there are very few leaders out there. And the most important thing for a political party is that you should be a leader, not the boss, not the premier minister or whatever minister post you have. You should be a leader, and a leader always do what's best for their people. They are servants to the people. The leader is not the big guy, the rock star. He is the servant, the most utter servant to the people, and that has to be a cultural thing once again in Sweden, in Norway, in the Nordic countries and in Europe as a whole. And then we have conventions. Can they stop remigration? No, they can't, because you can leave conventions. We have been a lot of discussions about another convention that is not related to mass migration. It's the Ottawa Convention, as probably the most of you have heard of, about landmines, personal mines. And a lot of countries are now withdrawing from that, and that's wise, because Russia and the USA and other big countries, they are not in that convention. And of course there might be someone in this audience that don't agree with me, but you can leave a convention if you like, and nothing will happen. We have an example in El Salvador with Nayib Bukele. And he was told that if you do this to your own criminals, it was not a migrant-related issue, but a similar issue. If you do this to your criminals, what he have done, then your economy will collapse and the other nations will sanction you. You will be isolated. Are El Salvador and Bukele isolated? No, he is not. Because that won't happen. So we can't play by the liberal rules, because if you play by the liberal rules, you will lose. We have to make our own rules. And if we don't make our own rules, of course, then we will lose, because then we have to follow all these crazy ideas put forward by the liberals, the extreme ones, those who want to harm their own people, which is extreme. The price of multiculturalism, I won't talk about that. In Sweden we have the problems you have in Norway, but even worse. But there are also solutions coming. Like I said in the beginning, opinions that was branded as Nazi opinions are now politics in Sweden. And I will take the most important question, which is citizenship. Because I have heard from this stage, you were talking about illegals, criminals, of course. But you also had this ticket to go home, where it said welfare migrants. And that is actually the biggest problem. They cost us a lot of money. And in this world we're living in now, there is a real danger that we don't have afford to rearm, which we have to do in Europe. We have been too naive too long. But that should not be on the cost of the health services and other welfare programs. We have to remigrate people who doesn't contribute to the society. Those people are not refugees, they are economic migrants. They came to Europe, to our countries, with an ill intent. We have no responsibility against them, and their citizenship have to be recalled. And then someone might say, oh, no, that's too radical, you can't do that. Yeah, we had that discussion in Sweden too. Just a few years ago, you couldn't say that we should recall citizenship even for criminals, because then you are, of course, a Nazi. And how is things playing out now? Well, the whole Swedish parliament, except 2 minor parties, are behind the idea of taking back the citizenship for criminals, subversive criminals. Okay, that's not a big step, but it is a step in the right direction. And of course, you couldn't do it. They said it wasn't possible. Now it is possible. Of course, a political party must be more tactical than a think tank or activists. I understand that. But a party must have a plan how to proceed to succeed. And one thing is to have this kind of gatherings where people like me, who are able to freely speak my mind and don't have to, be a tactical politicians, can say this is how we have to do it. Because some people will say, but no, we shouldn't recall citizenship because, they can go home voluntarily. We just pay them and they go home. Yeah, we have tried that in Sweden, and it will not work. It will be a few hundred that go home. In Denmark, they've already tried it. It's a few hundred that is going home. If we're doing that, it will take several hundred years to get away the scale of persons that need to leave the country. It's not feasible. You can't do that. It won't work. Of course, that's a step in the right direction. And it's, like I said, political parties have to do things in steps. So, of course, it's one way. But the only way to have larger voluntarily remigration is that the ones who are in danger of getting their citizenship recalled are going home if they have not that much money that our government proposes now, but less. They get that money and then they go home, and it's cheaper than if they are deported. Then the voluntary system will work, but they have to know that if I don't do that, then I will get my citizenship recalled and sent to another country. Because this is one of the other myths, and say, oh, but their homelands won't take them back. Well, don't care about that. Just have a deal with another country. Send everybody who doesn't voluntarily leave to that country. Don't complicate things. Because then you're playing by the liberal rules. Don't play by the rules. You can have this, and Denmark has plans to have cooperation with, I think it's Rwanda, if I remember right, outside of Europe, and that wasn't possible either a few years ago, but obviously you can, where the whole asylum process is exported. And that will, of course, make the asylum seekers to zero, because then nobody will seek asylum in Denmark. And this may sound too radical for some in here, but this is the way to do it, because the voluntary systems that are in place doesn't work. And like I said also earlier, you have to shift the narrative step by step, and you have to, of course, act depending on who you are, if you're an activist, a think tank, or a political party. But I am totally sure that Europe will solve this. We have been in worse conditions before and solved it, but we have to solve it without violence. And the only way to solve it without violence is what I believe we propose in our report, which is getting the political suggestions that is needed in place, and of course get the right political leaders to execute it. Not a premier minister or statsminister, as we say in Sweden, a leader like Nayib Bukele. He has shown you can do it if you like. And when I listen to the leadership of Norges Demokraterna, I think I said it right, I get the feeling that this is the right persons to do it in Norway, because they have another approach to this question than the Sweden Democrats has in Sweden. Now Sweden Democrats are a bigger party. They have to be tactical how they approach things, of course, but people follow leaders. People follow those who have a plan to solve the current problems. And you will move the corridor of opinion in Sweden. And I just want to end with a very good quotation from the youth leader of the Liberal Party in Sweden. And he says this, quote, "It almost feels like it's a thought prohibition to think that immigration is good for Sweden. A totally insane, narrow corridor of opinion." End of quote. And a few years ago, the corridor of opinion was that mass migration is good. So everybody in here has a responsibility to shift the narrative or the corridor of opinion, as we say in Sweden, and you can do it with the right strategies. But also, I want to, like the Englishman here took up, very important that we don't go and attack each other. We have to keep together and understand that everybody has their own job to do. Some will go very much ahead and some have to be more tactical. And if we don't understand that, then we will lose. But we have to work as a team and accept the differences and understand how to succeed. But we will succeed, and both the Nordic countries and Europe as a whole will go into a new golden age without von der Leyen and all the weak leaders that we have today. Thank you.